We satisfy a deeper hunger, not one of just the stomach, but one of the soul. And we do that through urban farming.
We believe in the power that food could have with transforming lives, especially when it's grown together. We reimagine a community where we all belong to each other.
We've all been planted at one time. We can grow a certain way or we can grow this way, but you can always dig up the seed and replant it again.
On this side, we're growing in the ground in rows. Right behind me, we're growing in raised beds. And then on this side, we have our compost program. Part of sustainability is if it's taking land that maybe has been forgotten or abandoned and reminding the land of its good. It's reminding the land of what it can grow, utilizing the resources that are here.
LA County has disproportionately more people on parole. LA as a city has a lot of underutilized land. So you have these two things that are challenges, and I think from the lens of urban agriculture, those two challenging things become real potential means to build, empower, and in a real way resolve a lot of social ills.
Alma has changed my life so much. I planted the bad seeds, and I'm here to plant the good seeds.
Urban agriculture has been something that has always existed. Growing food has always been a part of us as humans. What we have here in Compton is an urban farm because of the volume that we're able to grow.
It's Alma Backyard Farms. So Alma is the name of a street in East Los Angeles where we started. But Alma also means soul in Spanish. Urban agriculture for us is a means to the end of nourishing soul. Backyard is in our name because that's where we started. We started growing in backyards. We're in the backyard of a church and school. And then farms because we grow for volume. There's intentionality about where the food goes.
The pandemic really forced us to look at some of these systemic issues that have been affecting our communities for so long. And there's no way that we could have done anything different but to say, here are the same quality ingredients at no cost to you during these extremely difficult times, to really provide not just food, but the sense of hope. I never thought about being a farmer or being in urban agriculture. I never even thought about being like in landscape architecture. I always wanted to be a teacher. I grew up in South LA Watts where we had limited access to green spaces. We had limited access to quality foods. There was so much rates of incarceration and violence. And so part of it for me was experiencing that on the daily. I think there was just the tug to be a part of the solution. I often say that farming is like in my blood. Growing up here, actually in South LA, not far from our Compton farm, my parents always were growing something. I think it's like, you know, kind of the immigrant's way of trying to make home home. The mission of Alma is to reclaim lives, repurpose land, and reimagine community. We live that mission, we breathe that mission day in and day out.
We work to train and employ previously incarcerated persons through urban agriculture.
I think in a community like this, it helps to open more doors. It helps to really welcome more people and make it more acceptable that somebody who has served their time and is restored and rehabilitated can do good, not just for themselves, but for others.
Alma is, you know, it's food for my soul.
I started the reentry program. I'm formerly incarcerated. I told them my story about me being from Compton, and they thought that it would be good. They offered me employment.
They're reintroduced to the community as people who nourish. I liken that to reintroducing fish. If you take a fish out of water and you're going to reintroduce it into the water, you have to kind of glide the water over its gills. It's a very soft and gentle process. And I think the urban farm is kind of that process that is gentle.
We really wanted to allow for folks who are re-entering to be a part of the solution in communities like Compton that are struggling with food insecurity.
We don't have the same access as other communities. We don't have Trader Joe's here. We don't have Whole Foods here, you know, so by having this farm here, you know, we're making it available to the community.
Compton has a very rich agricultural history. It's actually one of the few parts of LA County that is still agriculturally zoned. Agricultural zoning is when you are allowed to do certain farm things on the zone or the land.
We're a space that preserves that rich history of farming and that rich history of food. Alma Backyard Farms in some way is reviving that memory and retaining that history and preserving it.
Part of being in the community is really being in the community, being present in the community and listening to what folks want. What is it that they can't find, or what is it that they want more of, or what can the space do that is fulfilling that need? I think it's really important for people to know where food comes from. Oftentimes when you go to a grocery store, especially in LA, things are always there. So you go to the produce section and there's always carrots, there's always apples, there's always lemons, oranges. Rarely are you going to go and not find it. We forget where food comes from. We forget that it doesn't just like pop up onto the shelf. For me, it's really important to know, like, where did the food come from? So where did those oranges come from? Do they grow on a tree? Do they come out of the ground? Do they grow on leaves? To just get a sense of how food grows and where it grows, so that when you're consuming, you're being more mindful, you're being more aware, you're being more intentional. So here we're growing a lot of brassicas. Brassica is like the name of the plant family. That includes cauliflowers, it includes cabbages, kale. So here, these are all cauliflowers. So cauliflowers grow these like really big leaves because they need to get all the energy from the sun to produce this one cauliflower head. See, these leaves kind of become like solar panels for the cauliflower. Another cool thing is you could actually eat the greens and the cauliflowers. Most grocery stores won't have them because I think it's probably just not really convenient. They just take the head off and they remove all the leaves. But if you're growing your own cauliflower, or if you're getting it at a farmer's market, it may come with a few leaves and you can just chop them up, saute them, throw them in your soups. They're really good for you and they're really tasty. One of our practices is to use a lot of companion planting or interplanting. Plants are like humans. They either get along or they don't. And so it's really important to know which plants are going to help each other grow. In this case, we're growing cilantro and we're growing kale together. And so cilantro likes a little shade. It doesn't like the heat too much. And when the kale gets nice and large, like it is behind, it helps to provide a little canopy and a little shade for the cilantro. We also grow a lot of flowers on the end. The flowers help to attract all the good bugs. They help to bring the bees and the butterflies and say like, hey, come check us out. And so when they come this way, sometimes they find some of the bad bugs in the leaves and they're like, well, we're just gonna eat them too. And that's a good thing because when you're growing organically, you're not using any chemicals or pesticides. So you want the good bugs to come around and help you do pest management. One of the practices that we utilize here at the farm is called crop rotation. You are rotating your crops. Certain plants take more nutrients than others. So greens, anything that has like big leaves, they take up a lot of nitrogen. And so you have to put a lot of nitrogen in the soil when you're preparing the soil for that growing season so that the plants have enough of that nitrogen to take up. So just think about it. If you are harvesting big cauliflowers, cabbages, and kale, they're taking up all this nitrogen. We're gonna have to put the nitrogen back in. So then we'll plant something like peas, and peas release a lot of nitrogen through their roots. And so the nitrogen just goes right back into the soil and it's ready for the different crop to take it in. Any plants that we take off that aren't good for us to distribute, or if we're trimming any of our trees or plants, we save all of that stuff and we're able to build these giant like compost burritos that allow for us to break everything down and reuse it as like really, really good fertilizer. Our compost is pretty large. It really breaks down to be browns and greens. Those are like your two main categories for compost. And your browns, they're super high in carbon, and your greens are super high in nitrogen. And then you balance it out and you layer. So that kale stem that you didn't use, that has a lot of nitrogen, and so that can just go in your compost. You get to add it to your soil, and it's like the best thing that you could do for your plants. So specialty crops are kind of what the name says. They're special crops that you may not find at all of the grocery stores in all the neighborhoods, but you may find it at a farmer's market or a little market that maybe sells more specialty crops, or at your local farm. If you are interested in like gardening or composting, or even cooking and trying new foods, there are so many opportunities available, not just here, but probably in so many gardens and community spaces in your neighborhood. A lot of it is you just have to do it. Find a piece in your backyard, find a pot that you can put on your balcony, that you can fill with soil, put some seeds in, and start growing. It doesn't always take this sort of idea of a green thumb. You just have to try it. Most of us that are growing have learned it by just doing it, and it is trial and error. So the plant dies, you learn that maybe it needed more water, maybe it needed less water, maybe you needed to give it more fertilizer. When you are successful at growing your crop, you're then gonna have to figure out, well, how do I eat it? So say that you're growing a leafy green like kale, like we are here behind me. You can put it in a smoothie, you can throw it in a soup, you can saute it with some nice like garlic or chili flakes. Or always the best thing to do is throw it in a quesadilla. Everybody loves quesadillas. You just throw this new vegetable that you're trying and see if you like it. Do you want less? Do you want more? And you start to play with it, and it gets really fun. One of the most satisfying things about growing your own food is being a part of the process. For me, it's like literally having my hands in the dirt. It's like dirt in the fingernails, dirt everywhere, the experience of connecting with the land. In LA, we have an abundance of growing space and an abundance of people who are just really excited about growing. So it's just a matter of looking for those people and just showing up. When you are purchasing and eating locally, there are a lot of advantages that come with that. The taste and the crunch and the sweetness is just going to be so much more powerful versus a tomato that maybe had to travel 1,000 miles before it got to you. An urban farm like this allows for you to have access to all the freshness right away.
This area here was an abandoned softball field. We've repurposed this land into a productive urban farm.
The satisfaction of seeing a seed grow and being able to harvest it and then feed people is something that is so fulfilling and transformative. If you are part of feeding people, it can really help to transform not just your life, but everyone's life who's a part of it.
It's a beautiful thing to watch something grow. I totally want to be a part of my community. I totally want to do good things for my community. And as I said, I planted the bad seeds, and I'm here to plant the good seeds.
I feel like the plants know that they're feeding the neighborhood, and so that's why they're growing more. It's what makes our farm, that at the end of the day, it's about us growing together. That it may seem quiet here, but it's teeming with life. It really is a matter of falling in love over and over and over again.